Have you ever heard of gallstones? Have you ever wondered if there's any way that you can get rid of them? Good news, there is. And in today's episode, I'm going to show you how. Hi everyone, Kristin Rowell here with another episode of the Energetically Efficient Show. I am so excited about this topic because this is something that very few people have ever experienced, but I have done it multiple times and I've had clients do it multiple times and our results have been incredible. So what I'm talking about with you today is something called a liver and gallbladder flush. Now, to be very clear, and I'm going to say this at the outside of this episode, that this is not medical advice. I'm not a medical doctor. I am a nutritional therapist. What I am going to walk you through is my own personal experience of doing something called a liver and gallbladder flush. But if this is something that you are interested in, I'll provide resources for you that you can take a look at to see if it's something you would like to do for yourself. And then, of course, I want to give the disclaimer, always, of course, consult with whoever your medical provider is before you do something like this. And I will tell you to begin, you will receive varying opinions about doing something like this, depending on who you speak with. So the liver and gallbladder flush was, I don't even want to say popularized by, but let's just use that language for now, a book called The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush. And I'm going to put that right here so you can see what the cover of the books looks like. And I will put a link below this video where you can get the book for yourself. It is so amazing to me how controversial doing a cleanse like this is. But again, I've talked about this in prior episodes. We have a system, at least here in America, that is focused a lot more on Western medicine than it is on ancient or Eastern medicine, or really even functional or naturopathic medicine. And I'm a big fan of the latter, of course. So I wanted to do a liver and gallbladder flush for the first time because I was very curious about it. I had read about it. I had purchased this book. I had read this book. I was interested in seeing, especially because I had spent so much of my life engaging in nutritional detox, how a liver and gallbladder flush could even elevate my results even further. So I did the first one many years ago, and I've done a handful since then, and I'm going to be doing another one coming up soon. So I just wanted to talk about it again to maybe encourage anyone who's interested in it to do their own research and see if this is something for you. So one of the things that you'll learn about in the book, and I do recommend that you read the book or at least read the sections of the book that apply to a liver and gallbladder flush so that you know what you're getting into. One of the things you will learn is that, and I'm just going to read from some notes that I took on this, which is that most people believe that gallstones can be found only in the gallbladder. That's just something that everyone is going to assume, that you have a liver and a gallbladder that work together and that your gallstones are only in the gallbladder. But according to the author of this book, this is a false assumption. Most gallstones are actually formed in the liver and only a few in the gallbladder. The statement can easily be verified by anyone who gives himself a liver cleanse. I'm reading directly from this source. Regardless of whether he is a layperson, a medical doctor, a scientist, and someone who no longer has a gallbladder and is believed to be free of gallstones altogether. Meaning, if you don't even have a gallbladder, you could do a liver and gallbladder flush and see that you'll have gallstones come out because a lot of them actually are stored in the liver. The author goes on to explain that an estimated 20% of the world's population will develop gallstones in their gallbladder at some stage in their lives. This figure, however, does not account for the many more people who will develop gallstones in the liver. And he explains that from his personal experience as a health practitioner with thousands of patients suffering all types of diseases, he can document that each one of them has had large amounts of gallstones in the liver. Surprisingly, only relatively few of them have had a history of gallstones in the gallbladder. Gallstones in the liver are, as will be seen in this book, and this comes directly from The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush, the main obstacle to maintaining health, youthfulness, and vitality. They are indeed one of the major reasons why people fall ill and have difficulty in recuperation from an illness. Now, I realize for some of you that may be a bold statement to hear. You may be thinking, are you telling me, Kristin, that a liver and gallbladder flush is the solution to all of my problems? Well, it could be the solution to some of them, truly. And I will tell you that in my experience, when I have done comprehensive liver and gallbladder flushes, which I'm going to walk you through today, I'm going to share with you what it is, I have been blown away how incredible I feel after I do a flush. And what I mean by incredible is not only does my digestion feel amazing, but I have so much more energy, and probably most significantly, and this has been really remarkable for me, I can't get over how happy I feel, how much it changes my mood within less than 24 hours. Like, you get done with a flush, let's say you do the flush on a Saturday night, you feel remarkably different and happier and in a better mood on Sunday afternoon and certainly by Monday. It's quite wild. And so I wouldn't know that if I hadn't experimented on my own body to do this sort of flush. And because I've released other episodes I have one other episode about becoming your own N of one experiment and doing an experiment on your body. I am a huge fan of experimenting on your body. I think experimenting on your body is one of the best ways to learn about what works for you, to actually learn about your health. If we aren't experimenting on ourselves, what are we even doing? I could listen to 300 podcasts a year. I could read 50 books a year. I could hear from all sorts of experts in a variety of fields. But until I actually apply any of what I am learning to my own body and see if it works for me, how am I going to know? So I just find it so fascinating that there are so many people, and I would say I've been guilty of this in the past also, of just ingesting information and not doing anything with it. So I'm going to encourage you, if you feel called to do an experiment like this, if you feel called in consultation with your medical provider or whoever you need to make yourself feel better about venturing on this kind of journey, to consider doing something like this, just because you will learn a lot about your health. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more just about the background of this, because I know there are some of you who are going to listen to this episode and probably just do the flush without reading the book, like I'm telling you. So I'm going to just give you a little bit more information. So what this individual says, the author of this, and this was actually posted online by a medical doctor about 10 years ago. This happened in 2015 when he posted this, because as a medical doctor, this individual found so much benefit from using liver and gallbladder flushes in his practice, even though doing something like that is pretty controversial to talk about in 2025. No medical doctor is going to learn about a liver and gallbladder flush in medical school, because it's not something that big pharma or insurance companies would ever recommend. And that's largely who is teaching our students in medical school. But beyond that, it's just not something that Western medicine has ever accepted or has gotten its arms around, because of course, if there's no randomized clinical trial, which costs millions of dollars to do, about a liver and gallbladder flush, many people are going to think, okay, that means it's not worth it. But that's just not the case. And I can say that from my own personal experience and the experience of my clients, and also from all the testimonials that are provided in this book. So what this particular author says about the amazing liver and gallbladder flush is: the failure to recognize gallstones in the liver may be an important missing link in the field of medicine, both orthodox and complementary. By understanding how gallstones in the liver contribute to the development of almost every type of disease, and by taking the steps of removing these obstructions, every person can discover for himself an easy method to restore health on a permanent basis. The implications of applying the liver cleanse for yourself, or if you are a health practitioner for your patients, are both vast and rewarding. To have a clean liver is like having a clean start in life. How awesome is that, you guys? And here's the thing, I agree with that. And the reason I say that is the liver is such an important organ in our body. Keep in mind, this organ has over 500, that's 500, functions in the body. Okay, so the more efficiently you can get it working, the less clogged it is, the healthier it becomes, and the better everything in your life gets. Truly, it improves your metabolic health so much. It improves your ability to burn fat. I want you to hear me on that. Your liver is responsible for synthesizing, absorbing, processing all of the fat that you consume, good, bad, or otherwise. The fat from your avocado, the fat from your walnuts, the fat from your grass-fed butter, all of which are good fats, in addition to the fat from the French fries you ate, the fat from that brownie or chocolate chip cookie, all of the quote unquote bad fats. So because your liver is responsible for all of that, in addition to it's responsible for storing glucose, which glucose stored form in the liver is called glycogen, in addition to the fact that it also manufactures bile. I mean, these are just a few of the things that the liver does. So can you imagine if you don't have it gummed up with gallstones, how much more efficient it could become, how much leaner you could be? It's such an amazing process to go through a liver and gallbladder flush. And so I just can't say enough good things about it. Reading back from this authority, I mentioned that to have a clean liver is like having a clean start in life. And I really, truly, you guys, because I talk about this is in my Radiant Reset course, how the liver is such an emotional organ. It stores anger. It stores emotions. When you clean out your liver, this is one of the reasons you're happier. You're in a better mood. You feel better. It's quite remarkable. So he goes on to say that the liver is the major controlling agent of normal growth and health functioning of all of the body's cells. Any malfunction, deficiency, or abnormal growth pattern of the cell is to large extent due to an impaired liver performance. What? I mean, this is fascinating, you guys. I find it so interesting. It says there is rarely a disease in the body that does not start in the liver. So keep in mind, I always talk about that the foundation, not really the foundation, but the genesis really of any disease is some measure of inflammation in the body, which is true. Inflammation is the root of all disease. You've got inflammation underlying all cancers, all Alzheimer's, all dementia, all metabolic dysfunction. You name the disease, inflammation in some body part is at the root of it. And so think about how amazing it would be is if we can get inflammation out of the liver to make it process or to make it function that much more efficiently. It's just pretty impressive. He goes on to say that all diseases or symptoms of ill health are caused by an obstruction. And he gives some examples, which I think are really interesting. And I just want you to sit with these and just listen to what they are and think about, does this resonate with you? He says, if a blocked blood vessel no longer allows delivery of vital oxygen or nutrients to a group of cells, the cells will be forced to introduce emergency measures or specific survival tactics. This is true. Many of the cells will not survive the famine. Others will learn to mutate and live off other cells and toxic materials, which may turn them malignant or cancerous. I mean, he's basically giving the most basic and elementary instruction that's really real of how cancer cells would grow. For example, there's a malignancy, there's toxicity in the body, there's an overfunctioning liver. Largely, a lot of people can get this from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease because we know that having obesity, having not healthy metabolic health, in other words, having poor metabolic health, being obese, having excess body fat is a primary risk factor for cancer. We know this. An obstruction of fluids in the body, I'm going on to share what he's saying. An obstruction of fluids in the body is directly and indirectly linked to an impaired liver performance, and in particular to a blockage caused by gallstones both in the liver and in the gallbladder. The presence of these stones in these organs greatly impairs the digestion of food, elimination of waste, and detoxification or harmful substances in the blood. By unblocking the liver and gallbladder, the body's 60 to 100 trillion cells. Keep in mind, guys, that's how many cells we have. We're talking about a massive organism that is our body. We have 60 to 100 trillion cells. So by unblocking the liver and gallbladder, our body's 60 to 100 trillion cells will be able to breathe more oxygen, receive more nutrients, eliminate their metabolic waste products and more efficiently, and maintain perfect communication links with the nervous system, endocrine system, and all other parts of the body. I mean, have I sold you yet on how amazing this is? Now listen, I get nothing from selling you on this. Let me be very clear. I just was excited about it because I've done these and I know how good I feel. And so I'm going to be doing another one soon and I wanted to talk about it here. So I could go on and read more and more and more from this book and from this summary, but I want to direct you to two primary resources. Number one, I'm going to encourage you again, get this book, The Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush, if you want to read more about it. It's amazing. And number two, I have still saved, even though it was a while ago that I put this on my Instagram for the first time, and my Instagram handle is Kristin, Kristin _ Rowell, ROWELL _. And in my highlights on my Instagram, I have one that's called Liver and Gallbladder Flush. I couldn't write out the whole word, so I think I put like LVRGB flush, something like that. But if you watch that, you can see the whole process that I go through. And in that, I have 3 different images that show a short Cliff Notes version of how to do this flush. And I'm going to walk you through that right now, but in case you want to screenshot those and save them on your own, you can. And I suggest that you do that simply because I obtained this online many years ago from a medical doctor who put this online, and the website and the whole business, I can't find it anymore. And so I've thankfully saved it and have these screenshots. Okay. So he goes on to talk about how important doing something like this is, and you can read all about that, like I said. But I want to read you, I'm going to go on to page 2. Okay, so this is where I have my notes in terms of how you would actually do this liver cleanse. And because I've done it so many times, I have some little tips and tricks that I've learned in terms of variations that I would put on what's actually in the book. And I learned this through other practitioners who I initially received advice from about doing a cleanse like this. And that is, just for example, because I consider myself a low carbohydrate athlete, I don't consume juice. Like I don't drink liquid carbohydrates. So even though the liver and gallbladder flush would recommend drinking apple juice, and the reason that it does that, The reason that that's the recommendation is because the malic acid in apple juice will help to soften the gallstones so that when they pass, you experience zero pain. I want to be very clear. There's no pain associated with this. What I do instead of drinking apple juice, because I don't want that liquid carbohydrate consumption, is I instead take a supplement that contains malic acid. And so I do that and I dose it in a certain amount so that it actually allows the stones to soften. And I've done that every time. I've never done a liver and gallbladder flush by drinking apple juice, and I've never had any pain with it whatsoever. So the stones will get soft on their own plenty by just consuming malic acid the day of the flush and maybe even the night before. So I'll give you some recommendations in that. So really what you're going to want, and I'm going to put a whole list here for you, and I will also include some of these details with links below this video, but I want to tell you what you need for this flush because it's actually pretty simple. So I'm going to pretend that we're going to do this flush together on a Saturday night. So I love, this is just my personal recommendation, and the reason I've released this podcast episode on the day I have is because my 2-week October cleanse is ending. So this Saturday would be a great time to consider doing this flush, okay? So I like to do this flush at the end of a 2-week cleanse. And the reason I say that is you've prepped your body so well for cleansing. You've opened up all your detox pathways. You haven't put any toxic sludge into your body for 2 weeks. You really are feeling energized. You're feeling good. Your liver is prepped and ready to go for this kind of a flush. So I think it's excellent to do at the very end of this cleanse. And the reason that I recommend Saturday night is because you really don't want to eat any solid foods at all on Saturday. For those who are doing the flush with me, on Saturday night of the cleanse, what I want to just communicate to you very clearly is you would not worry about eating the detox foods on that day. I mean, you're not going to eat off of the cleanse, but we're going to just have protein shakes on the day of the cleanse because you don't want to eat any solid foods the night you're going to flush. So we'll do a detox approved protein shake and just have 3 of those throughout the day so that you aren't eating any solid foods the day of the flush. And for those of you who are experienced in fasting, you could also simply fast the day of the flush because we just don't want to put any solid foods in because you want to be able to see all of the gallstones that come out into the toilet because it is remarkable. I mean, remarkable. It's quite wild. And I just get so excited about it. Okay, so what do we need for the flush? So you want to buy some organic lemons. We're going to need a bunch of organic lemons. You want to buy some food-grade Epsom salt. So I'll put a link below this video of one that I found, but I found that you can go into your local co-op, ask them for food-grade Epsom salt. They may be confused. They may say, oh, here's all our Epsom salt. And if you look at it, there's nothing on the bag or nothing in the jar that says food grade. So you want to make sure it's food grade Epsom salt, the kind you can ingest. And it's not hard to find this. I just find it interesting how many people just put you to the Epsom salt that you could put in the bath, like a rose flavored or a lavender flavored. No, that's not what we're doing. We're doing the kind you can ingest. So it must be food grade Epsom salt. Okay. So lemons, food grade Epsom salt. Then you need some organic liquid stevia. And trust me, you will thank me later for having this because I am telling you guys right now, the drink that you have to drink to get this moving, to get the stool moving out of your body before you actually do the flush is, you're going to want it to taste as good as possible because it's really real tough to get down. I'm just going to warn you. Okay. You want some high quality olive oil. So for me, I'm going to use my fresh pressed olive oil. This is I brought a bottle with me so I could show you. Okay. So this is an example of my fresh pressed olive oil. Ta-da! I love it. This was from my most recent shipment. So this is from Australia. So I get 3 bottles sent to me every quarter because I'm a member of fresh pressed olive oil. So this is like being a member of the coolest, fanciest wine club, but you don't drink the toxicity of wine. You get the best olive oil. And what a lot of people don't realize is that olive oil has amazing polyphenols and other nutrients, but many of them are degraded substantially after 6 months. So I assure you, probably 100% of the olive oil sitting on supermarket shelves has been in that bottle for at least 6 months. So you're not getting barely any of the polyphenol benefit like you would from the fresh pressed olive oil. So this most recent shipment that I received, this is from Australia. The one before I received from Portugal or Spain. The one before that I think was Germany. And I'm guessing the one before that was Italy. They come from really cool places because the owners of fresh pressed olive oil literally go around to small family vineyards and get oil pressed immediately into these bottles and shipped out to people in the membership. So I can't say enough good things about it. I've given it to clients as holiday gifts before. It truly tastes amazing. And most importantly, you guys, because people don't realize this, is that you really shouldn't cook food with olive oil on high heat for sure not from the grocery store. This olive oil, you can cook on high heat. You can torch it if you want to, but it's so good. It's so good just on a salad fresh because it just tastes so amazing. So I'm going to be drinking my fresh pressed olive oil. You actually, and I'll put a link below this video, you can try a bottle for $1 if you want by using the link that I'll give you because I'm a member of that. So they've given me an affiliate link. So highly recommend that you consider it because it really does taste different. Okay, so in addition to the olive oil, I mentioned the lemons, I mentioned the stevia, I mentioned the Epsom salt, the food grade, remember. You could also, perhaps if it sounds good to you, get some ginger tea. Some people like the taste of ginger tea. Some people have this the night of the flush. I've gone back and forth as to whether I've done this. So just if you want that, if you want to have some broth, some bone broth around, you could also do some bone broth. So here's what we're going to do. So now is the point in the video where I'm going to explain to you, or the point in the podcast or the show rather, where I'm going to explain to you exactly how to walk you through doing this. Okay. But again, I recommend that you read the book. I recommend that you get the whole context. I recommend that you read about the why. I love understanding the why before I do something because that is just going to allow you to feel really motivated as to why you're doing it and to understand the reasoning. You're not just doing it because Kristin said she's done it and it's a good idea. You're doing it because you're like, oh, I'm interested to see how toxic my liver is and how amazing that I could do this flush so that I could actually find that out for myself. So that would be my recommendation, is to read the book. Again, I'll say it again. Okay, so let's say we're going to do the flush on Saturday night. So what I've recommended to clients in the past, even though this would be not necessarily exactly the same as what it would say in the book, is I want to make sure that there is no question about how soft the gallstones are. I want to make sure they're soft. So the night before, so let's say Friday night, I would take 3 capsules of magnesium malate. And I say 3, which I probably shouldn't even say because don't necessarily take my recommendation on the amount. What really matters, you guys, is the amount of malic acid in the supplement. So depending on what supplement you get of magnesium malate, a really good one that I've taken that I've used almost on every flush is called Source Naturals. And so Source Naturals is one. I'll put a link below this. You can order the Source Naturals magnesium malate. But the key is, and I just want to look back at the exact dosing because I don't want to say this incorrectly. So the malic acid, the author of Amazing Liver and Gallbladder Flush, recommends that you're basically taking 1,000 milligrams. And forgive me because the mg, I don't know if it's micrograms or milligrams. I'm pretty sure it's milligrams because micrograms would be mcg. So milligrams, you want to take 1,000 milligrams of malic acid 4 times daily. Okay. So if your magnesium malate has 500 micrograms or milligrams rather of malic acid in one tablet, how many tablets would you take? You would take 2 because you need 1,000 milligrams. So you have to do the math on how many milligrams or grams of malic acid are in a serving because you want 1,000 of them 4 times a day. Okay. So the book does not say to take 1,000 the night before the flush, but I just was a little paranoid the first time I did it because I wanted to make sure the gallstones were soft. So I do typically take some malic acid the night before the flush. So if we're going to flush on Saturday night, that means I take 1,000 milligrams of malic acid. So by the way, guys, what would 1,000 milligrams be? 1,000 milligrams would be 1 gram. So it would be 1 gram of malic acid. So you're going to have to do the math on whatever supplement you have to say, for example, I pulled up before we started recording this, I pulled up a Source Naturals malic acid or magnesium malate. And in this particular one that I found, it says Source Naturals magnesium malate, and it says 200 capsules. And then in the bottom, it says 3.750 milligrams per serving. Well, 3.75 milligrams of what? Magnesium? Malic acid? Malate? Like what's in there? So then I go to the back of the bottle and then I look. This is going to be some math. You're going to have to do some math for yourself. So then this says in 6 capsules of this, okay, in 6 capsules, there is 2.5 grams of malic acid. And what did I say we needed? I said we needed 1,000, which would be 1 gram. And this says 2.5 grams. So if I cut 2.5 grams in half, that would be 1.25 grams or 1,250 milligrams. And that would be 3 capsules. So that's how I came up with 3 capsules. So yes, that's a little more than 1,000. I don't care. I would do 3 capsules of this particular Source Naturals magnesium malate the night before the flush, just to make sure I'm softening those gallstones. And then the day of the flush, I would do 2 or 3 of those capsules, because keep in mind, 3 of those capsules is going to be 1,250. And the author says you only need 1,000 4 times in the day. So in the morning, I'd probably take 2 of those capsules. Midday, I'd probably take 3. In the afternoon, I'd probably take 2. And then before bed, I'd probably take 3. I would just make sure I'm dosing it so that I had at least 1,000 at each sitting, or right around there, so that it averaged out to be, if it was 1,000 4 times a day, that's a total of 4,000. So I would just make sure I got 4,000 or 4 grams of malic acid throughout that day. Hopefully that makes sense to you. But again, I'm giving you a lot of resources to figure this out for yourself, and you can rewind and listen to this as much as you want. Okay, so we're going to take the 1.25 grams, because I'm not going to cut up the pill to get 1,000. I'm just going to do 1.25. And by the way, I should give you a footnote here. One time when I did the gallbladder flush, I was like, okay, I'm going to game the system, and I'm just going to buy straight food grade malic acid. Okay, I'm just going to get food grade malic acid, and then I'm going to get it in those crystals, and I'm going to put it on my food scale, and I'm going to measure out 1 gram. That's what I did. Well, let me tell you guys, highly do not recommend. And here's why I say that. It is very easy to overdo malic acid. And keep in mind that one of the words in malic acid is acid. So just like if you consume too much apple cider vinegar, just like if you consume too much hydrozyme or other stomach acid supplement, just like if you consume way too much acid in your diet without a balance of alkalinity, what happens? It burns when you go number 2. The acid literally burns when it comes out. So let me just tell you how painful and miserable I was, okay? Sorry for the TMI, but how painful and miserable I was during this amazing liver and gallbladder flush because I used crystals of malic acid instead of magnesium malate. So I do not recommend. Learn from my mistakes and just don't do that. I thought I was measuring it all appropriately. Way too much acid. So this means you're going to do the magnesium malate, okay? So either 2 pills or 3 pills 4 times during the day on Saturday. So you're going to do it at morning, you're going to do it midday at lunch, you're going to do it afternoon or dinner, and you're going to do it bedtime. You just want to get that out. That's going to soften the stones. That is plenty to soften the stones. Do not worry about this. It does not hurt. I've done this multiple times, never had an issue. My clients have done it multiple times, never had an issue. This works. Okay, and that way you can skip the apple juice that they recommend in the book because we're using the malic acid in the form of magnesium malate instead. Okay, so that's really what we're gonna do in terms of the malic acid. And then, so we're gonna take 3 of those pills on Friday night, and then on Saturday night, we're gonna do 2 in the morning, 3 at lunch, 2 afternoon, 3 before bed, or thereabouts. And then on that day, on Saturday, on the flush day, you're not going to consume any solid foods. It's just protein shakes. So if you're doing this with me on the cleanse, what I typically do is I just do my PB&J protein shake because I love it. And I just have 3 of them throughout the day, depending on how hungry I am. I've also done this just purely fasting and not eaten anything. But if you feel hungry, then remember my peanut butter and jelly protein shake is just 1 cup of frozen berries. It's a serving of whey protein. It's a serving of collagen. And it's 2 tablespoons of like an organic peanut butter or other organic nut butter that you'd enjoy. And then some unsweetened almond milk or coconut milk or kefir or something, and then ice, and you just blend that up really well. And so that would be a liquid that you drink. It's a pretty thick and creamy shake. It's delicious, but that would be something that you could do for a meal replacement and just have those 3 times a day. So on my protocol, what I've written is, on the flush day, you have only protein shakes or liquids, no solid foods. You also could do some bone broth. That's one of the reasons I recommend having bone broth around, if that sounds good to you. So in the morning, you take your 3 magnesium malate or your 4 magnesium malate, whatever you need to get 1,000 milligrams of malic acid, 2, 3, 4, depending on what you're taking. Then you have a protein shake. Midday, more magnesium malate, protein shake. Afternoon, more magnesium malate, protein shake. And then here's where it gets to the flush point, okay? This is the important part. So at 6 p.m., you are going to drink 1 cup of water with 1 tablespoon, so 5 grams, of food-grade Epsom salt mixed in with the juice of 1 lemon. And you're going to put liquid stevia to taste. I'm just warning you guys, this drink, which is just Epsom salt, water, lemon juice, and stevia, tastes horrible. I add the lemon juice and the stevia to it, which the book says is okay to do, because if I had to drink just the Epsom salt and the water, I couldn't take it. It's that bad. I mean, I am plugging my nose and drinking it so I can barely taste it, and I just chug it and slam it down. It is so horrible tasting. It's the hardest part of the flush. I'm just warning you. It tastes real bad, but you can do it. I've done it plenty of times. You can do it. And then at 8 p.m., you do the exact same thing again. You're doing the Epsom salt with the water with the lemon juice with liquid stevia. So just as a reminder, I know I already said this, it's 1 cup of water to 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt to the juice of 1 lemon, and then drops of organic liquid stevia to taste. So you've done that at 6 p.m., you've done that at 8 p.m. Now what these 2 things are doing, what those 2 cups of Epsom salt are doing, is they are gonna start to flush out your bowels. So you're not necessarily gonna have bowel movements right away. You may start to have them right away or pretty quickly after you drink those, but they may happen for you in the middle of the night, but they will start to flush out your bowels so that you're cleaned out, so that once the gallstones start coming out, which won't happen until sometime in the middle of the night or Sunday morning, it's not mixed with a bunch of stool, so you can actually see the gallstones. Okay. And then at 9 p.m., if you want to, you could have 1 or 2 cups of organic ginger tea. Some people think that ginger tea really feels good for the digestion. I've done this before. I've also done flushes without it. So you just get to decide whether or not you want to do the ginger tea. And then in the evening before bed, you're going to take more of the magnesium malate. Remember, we have that for 4 servings throughout the day. So 4 times throughout the day, we're going to take 1,000 milligrams or 1 gram of magnesium malate. And then at 10 p.m., and this is the key, this is the main part of the flush. This is really what the flush is. At 10 p.m., here's what you're going to drink. And I should say this, before you drink this, okay, you have to be fully ready for bed. PJs on, teeth brushed, face washed, whatever your routine is. You've meditated, whatever it is. You are fully ready for bed. The dogs have already gone out to pee. You've tucked in the kids. You've had your water. You've done whatever you do before bed, because the second after you drink what I'm about to tell you to drink, you have to immediately lay down and not move. And the reason for that is this is how the flush starts to work, and it gets the gallstones to come out of your liver and out of your gallbladder. And you can't be running around, going up and down the stairs, going out to take the dogs out. No, you have to be laying down. That's how this works. So get everything done before 10 p.m. that night, and then you're going to do this and you're going to lie down. So this is what you do. You mix, and this is why I love the fresh pressed olive oil, because it's so high quality. I'm going to mix a half a cup of that organic fresh pressed olive oil, and I'm going to mix it with the juice of 1 lemon. Now in the book, I think they talk about grapefruit juice, but I do not use grapefruit juice. And that's specific because of what I understand it does in terms of detox. So I don't like it for detox. So I want to focus on lemon. And so I mix that together. This tastes delicious. Olive oil with lemon, you guys. I know it's like, oh my God, Kristin, I'm drinking a half a cup of olive oil. Yes, you are. You didn't eat much today. You only had those protein shakes, so don't worry about it. And I should tell you, I've done this flush plenty with my blood sugar monitor on. And as you would suspect, drinking a half a cup of olive oil does nothing to your blood sugar. It's straight fat. So you get no blood sugar spike whatsoever, which I would have expected. So you're going to immediately lay down once you do that. And if you really, really focus and you get very present and you feel into your body, you can start to feel, and I want you to picture this, you can start to feel the gallstones move from your liver and down through your digestive system, because they're going to be starting to come out of you within the next few hours. And it's remarkable when you can start to feel it. Like you feel something happening. Remember, you guys, your liver is on your right-hand side. For ladies, it's under your right boob. For ladies and men, it's behind that right rib cage, that big sternum there, or rib cage rather, your sternum's in the middle. So it's behind that. So just pay attention to how that feels and really tune into your body and notice how that feels as those gallstones start to come out of your body. And so you will start to have bowel movements. And this is where I want to actually read from this part in the book, because I thought it was so fascinating, the way that he describes it, because it's really true. And this is for sure my experience. So there's a section in the book where he says the results you can expect. So let me read this to you. You will have a number of bowel movements in the form of diarrhea, consisting of gallstones, mixed first with food residue and then with water only. And I would say that's true, although since we only do protein shakes the day of the cleanse, hopefully you don't have a lot of food residue left. Most of the gallstones float in the toilet because they contain large amounts of cholesterol. You will see mostly green ones of all sizes and shapes. Some are pea-sized or smaller, and others will be as big as 2 to 3 centimeters. There may be hundreds of stones coming out at once, and this is true. I've done this. It's unbelievable to see. Also, watch out for tan-colored and white ones. Some of the larger tan-colored ones may sink with the stool because they are calcified and contain heavier toxic substances and only small amounts of cholesterol. The cholesterol tends to make the other things float. All of the green stones are soft as putty thanks to the apple juice, or in your case, malic acid. You may also find a layer of white or tan-colored scum or foam. I know this is disgusting, you guys, but this is real. Floating in the toilet. The foam consists of millions of tiny white, sharp-edged cholesterol crystals, which can easily rupture small bile ducts, and they're equally important to get rid of. Now, I will tell you, when I did my first cleanse, I saw lots of those, like hundreds of the white-colored crystals. I was like, oh my God, what are those versus the stones? It was like the coolest science experiment I had ever done on my body, and I could not believe that all of this was in me and was coming out. It was so freaking cool. And then he goes on to say, try to make a rough estimate of how many stones you have eliminated. There's no possible way I could have done that. I mean, it was literally hundreds, so I didn't even make estimates. But if you want to get really nerdy like I did, because I did this with a friend the very first time I did it, we bought strainers to strain out of the toilet just to see what some of these stones look like, to just look at them. I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And then he goes on to say, to permanently cure bursitis, back pain, allergies, or other health problems, and to prevent disease from arising, you need to remove all the stones. This may require up to 6 or more cleanses, which can be performed at 2 to 3 week intervals. And he says, do not cleanse more frequently than that. So he's like, don't do it every week for 6 weeks. Do it. Wait 2 to 3 weeks, do another one. Wait 2 to 3 weeks, do another one, etc., up to 6 times if you feel like you are still getting stones out. For me, the first time I did it, or the second time I did it, I think I did a second or third flush 2 or 3 weeks later, and I was already noticing by flush 2 or 3, there was hardly anything coming out, so I didn't do a full 6. I didn't need them. But you may discover that you're like, oh, I want to do another one of these in 2 or 3 weeks. And trust me, I am a very busy person and I travel a ton. So it really isn't always convenient to do these for me 2 to 3 weeks apart. Like my travel schedule just doesn't always allow it, or my social calendar doesn't always allow it. So just work with what works best for you. But I do recommend if you do one and you see so many stones coming out, try to put another one on the calendar for 2 or 3 weeks later. And the reason I recommend Saturday is because you really can't be that far from a toilet the next day, at least until about 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, because you're still going to be having bowel movements up until mid-afternoon that day to get everything out. So then he says, the important thing to remember is that once you have started cleansing the liver, keep cleansing until no more stones come out. Leaving a half cleanse for a long period of time, 3 or more months, can cause greater discomfort than not cleansing at all. And I think what he's referring to there, and he talks about this in the book, is as you do one of these cleanses, the gallstones that are in the back of the liver start to pull forward to the front of the liver, but they may not come all the way out in the first cleanse. So you want to keep cleansing so you can get the liver as clear as possible. Otherwise, those gallstones that are now in the front of the liver might just impact you more, which is, I think, what he talks about in the book. But again, read the book if you want to understand more about that. So he goes on to say the liver as a whole will begin to function more efficiently soon after the first cleanse, and you may notice sudden improvements sometimes within a few hours. Pain will be less, energy will increase, and clarity of mind will improve considerably. And I agree with that. And the other thing I would add to that is you will notice a very much improved mood. It's quite remarkable and like shocking, actually. I was like, I think I'm a pretty clean girl already. I cleanse all the time. I cleanse 4 times a year since I was in my 20s. You'd think I had not a lot of toxicity, but it just proves, you guys, how toxic our world is. We're always exposed to these things, which is why I believe in detox so importantly. For example, I'll let you in on a little inside baseball. I use dry shampoo plenty. I use it plenty because sometimes I just don't want to wash my hair too often. And I'm in a hurry and I'm busy and I've got to use it instead of washing my hair. Now, I will tell you, when I recently used dry shampoo, I have an Air Doctor Air Filter Pro in my bedroom, which is connected to my bathroom. And I thought as I was spraying the dry shampoo, I'm like, I really shouldn't be using this. It's not good for me. It's toxic. I'm inhaling toxic fumes. It's really stupid. I need to get a non-toxic dry shampoo. So this has kind of been on my list and in my mind. But no joke, you guys, less than 3 minutes after I sprayed this dry shampoo, all of a sudden I could hear the Air Doctor in the bedroom turn on high, and it went to the circle turned from blue to red, which means I'm getting a lot of toxic stuff out of the air right now. All of that dry shampoo had traveled close to that Air Doctor, and it was already cleaning the air because of the toxic sludge. Like if you light a match and blow out a match so that there's smoke in front of the Air Doctor, the blue circle will immediately turn red because it's clearing all the carcinogens from the smoke out of the air. So that's why I always am careful about candles, try to use soy candles, try to not do tons of sage or Palo Santo in my home, just because I've seen what it can do to the toxicity of the air. It's quite fascinating. Okay, going on here, I just want to read a little bit more of this to you, and I want to finish by telling you what you do on Sunday because the flush details are not over. So he does say, however, within a few days after your cleanse, stones from the rear of the liver will have traveled forward toward the two main bile ducts exiting the liver, which may cause some of the previous symptoms of discomfort to return. In fact, you may feel discomfort because the recovery seemed so short-lived, but all this shows that there are still stones left behind, ready to be removed with the next round of elimination. Nevertheless, the liver's self-repair and cleansing response will have increased significantly, adding a great deal of effectiveness to this all-important organ of the body. So keep in mind, that's what I mean when I say you want to consider doing this again 2 or 3 weeks later until you notice you don't have much by way of stones coming out. Okay, so I took you through that evening, and I've kind of told you a little bit what will happen in terms of the toilet. But when you wake up on Sunday, so you want to set your alarm so you're up at 6 a.m. At 6 a.m., sorry to break it to you, you have to do another cup of water with a tablespoon of food-grade Epsom salt, with the juice of 1 lemon and some organic liquid stevia at 6 a.m. And you have to do that again at 8 a.m. You do not have to do magnesium malate at all on Sunday. That's only for Friday night if you want to add Friday night, and then 4 times on Saturday like we talked about. But then you do have to do, there are 4 servings total of the water, Epsom salt, lemon, stevia mix, and that's 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Saturday night, and then 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. on Sunday morning. And so, again, that's going to taste horrible. So that is something you just want to be aware of, plugging your nose, making sure that you're getting rid of all of those stones as you go through this cleanse. And that's really what I have for you. So if you try this, I would love for you to leave me a comment below this video. I have watched YouTube videos about this in the past from many years ago about people who have done the amazing liver and gallbladder flush, who have also read this book and have just had amazing testimonials from it. So like I said, I've done this with many clients. They have tried it. They can't believe what comes out in the toilet and how good they feel. I can't wait. I'm going to try to document my journey throughout social media just so I can share with everyone what's coming up for me, since I haven't done this for a while now. And so I just want to refresh really my highlights, why I do this, what I learn about my body when I do it. So if you'd like to join me, comment below the video. I'll put all of the links so that you can make sure that you get everything that you need for this flush and are totally prepared. And I will see you on the next episode of the Energetically Efficient Show.